Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm joined by Peter Capaldi.
Am I? I wish.
Peter Capaldi.
Well, he's not coming back to Doctor Who, is he?
He's not. This is the best we could get.
Unofficially, Russell, cast me as the 12th Doctor.
Yeah.
You can dub the Scottish accent over
later. There's more chance of that happening, isn't there?
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Oh yeah.
Anyway.
You really don't want to come back.
Yeah. It was interesting though, recently, you've seen the interviews he's done for one of that new show he's in at the moment,
where he gets asked.
I think, and he gets asked
who's his favourite Doctor?
Who's his favourite Doctor?
And he's like I am.
Yeah. So on that note, hello, welcome back. This is of course not Peter Capaldi, but Joe, who's appeared on the channel a couple of times before. The costume man, the guy with all the stuff, with all the knowledge. We did a breakdown of the 14th Doctor's costume last year, which I think people enjoyed, and this time, the thing that Joe, I think it would be safe to say, is sort of best known for is his Peter Capaldi 12th Doctor costumes.
Yeah, it's been a long history.
Yeah, it's the thing I think that kind of struck me when I sort of discovered you, and yeah, I sort of said to you when we started thinking about doing videos, it'd be really nice to do some videos about, well, I think first of all I said, it'd be really nice to do one video about all the 12th Doctor costumes, and that's kind of now become like a multi-part series because there's so much to it and so many different things to cover. Yeah.
And this is like the prelude, is that the right word for it?
Yeah, I guess so. The prelude, the prologue, the warm-up, the taster, just a short little instalment, but we thought, because this week at the time of recording, and hopefully the day this goes out as well is the actual day, the anniversary of Peter Capaldi's costume being revealed to the world, so we thought we'd do a breakdown of that first costume, of course, the one that everything else was sort of based on when subsequent costume designers got hold of it and messed around with it, or I don't mean messed around like that, but changed it up, shook it up for better or for worse. I suppose we'll get into that, won't we? We'll get into that later on. But this is the template. This is the one, the original one. So I've got the press release on my phone, and of course that original image from the time as well, which is worth
just so striking.
Looking at again, because it is, isn't it? I mean,
it's such a stark comparison to what was before. It was like they had taken, in my opinion, the first three Doctors and had merged them. If you were to look at it as a blank canvas and sort of blur your eyes, it's like distinctively basic Doctor.
Yeah, if you squint at us.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
So I was going to say, do you have any particular memories of when this came out? What you thought of it at the time as a costume?
Was it announced on BBC News? I have a feeling I saw it. First I saw it.
Yeah,
it was a BBC
on the actual telly or whatever.
Yeah, on the telly. It might have been, this is our new Doctor.
Yeah.
And it was early January because I think they began filming publicly with it, I think.
Because there was the original photo, wasn't there, of, I think, him and Jenna on a backlot in the studios where he was in the deep breath
and he's pointing, and the cuffs are undone on the shirt. And it's Matt Smith's look, but...
Okay, the little details. I guess the reason they announced this when they did, like you say, it was because of public filming. I guess the first time we saw it out in public was when they filmed the end of Deep Breath, I guess, maybe?
Yeah, yes, from Rose.
That final scene where...
Are they in Glasgow? Yeah.
Yeah.
They land in Glasgow, well,
Cardiff,
but it's supposed to be Glasgow.
Queen Street in Cardiff, I believe. Yeah, it was meant to be Glasgow. Yeah, and that's right. It was the same street they'd filmed on for that scene with Rose, so it's all kind of tied in. But I'd have to go and check that now, actually, because I'm sure that's probably the first time it was seen, and they kind of got ahead of it with this.
Yeah, because it would have been in studio, specifically.
Would have been beforehand,
this look, because it was used for Into the Dalek, and then this particular version, I don't think
that's right, and that
was ever used again.
That was the block, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Now that's interesting as well. Yeah, never used again. Okay.
I don't think. Yeah. I think it's obviously the scene where he goes, "I'm the Doctor."
Yes.
I've lived through over 2,000
years. I've
made
many mistakes and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Because looking back as well, I'm thinking back to my first thoughts on it. I don't remember either way what I thought. I think at the time, the thing that did strike me, like you say, is, and that they made a big thing of this in the promotional stuff as well.
It was very...
Pertwee-esque. It's a classic Doctorishness. It's the contrast to Matt Smith's costume. I mean, I think he says somewhere, doesn't he, or someone No frills, no scarf, no messing, just 100%
Rebel
Time Lord. And that is actually a quote from Peter Capaldi himself, apparently.
I don't think so. I can't imagine Peter sitting there and going...
He's woven the future from the cloth of the past. Simple, stark, and back to basics. Stephen Moffat, new Doctor, new era, new clothes. Monsters of the universe, the vacation is over. Capaldi is suited and booted and coming to get you. Charlotte Moore, the controller of BBC One. It's sharp, smart, and stylish. The 12th Time Lord means business. I mean, that was the thing they kind of ran with, I think, so much, wasn't it? It was a contrast, it was sharper edges to the look and the costume and more defined. It was that thing of the collar, like, buttoned up, you know, with sharp edges on the collar and everything, and no bow tie or anything, or
a
tie.
bit rougher, you know, he's not...
Yeah.
This Doctor, he would get in a scrap. You know what I mean? It was going back to that sort of Eccleston thing where you had Smith, who was a bit more flamboyant and a bit more brighter, in a sense, and then a bit more whimsical. And
we'd had bow ties are cool, so it was a very sort of deliberate, conscious thing, I think, wasn't it, to kind of go, okay, we're doing something very different here.
And then David, you had very action hero and like the trench coat, and I think this was to just go back to a classic Doctor, and I think for the most of Series 8 they achieved that really well, and I think the looks overall, I know Series 8 it gets a bit controversial given it's a bit Torchwood-like, almost, in a way that the way it's written, it gets very dark.
Yeah, I like the ideas behind all that stuff and the direction. I believe, actually, Peter Capaldi, over the years, people said, Stephen Moffat wrote him in a way that he didn't, want to be or whatever. But I think, actually, a lot of it actually came from Capaldi himself, that's what I've heard. The direction, the
back to
character.
A more brooding Doctor.
And it's that classic series thing, less approachable, less sort of affable, I do enjoy it for the most part as well. I think, like you say, there are some moments where maybe they push it a bit far for the sake of it or whatever, making it a bit unpleasant just for the sake of, but I like when they kind of justify it as, I appear to be behaving in this way, but actually I've got good intentions at heart, and I am a nice guy, but I'm not good at showing it and all that kind of stuff. Well, I like that idea.
I think one really good example is Mummy on the Orient Express.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Someone, I can't remember who it is, they die in the middle, and he says, I think it's, is it Frank Skinner's character? Is that right?
He
turned round and says, someone has just died, can we not have a moment?
I could hear that in his voice as well.
He turned round and he's like, no, we cannot mourn. People with guns to their heads cannot mourn. We just have to keep going. Yes. And it looks like he doesn't care. Yeah. But at the end of the episode, he just says, sometimes the only choices you have are bad ones, but you still have to choose.
Exactly.
And
it's ingrained. Yeah.
But he's like... It sort of opens up to that character that you have a very dark episode where the Doctor through it is just like, I don't care, these people are dropping dead. I need to just get on with my own stuff. It's solve the situation. But by the end you sort of understand that he acknowledges it. Not necessarily fully.
Yeah.
But it was an interesting way to take the character. And back onto the costume, obviously, it sort of, I think, was inspired by the direction they wanted to go in with him. Like,
yeah, because it certainly, it gives that sort of vibe, doesn't it? It all ties into that. Yes, this costume, like we say, it was the original, it was the template. So it appears at the end of Deep Breath into the Dalek, and then so never again. So
I think they kind of reuse it, but without the cardigan. So it's a bit of debate. It's when he's tied up to that pillar.
Yeah. It's the one scene that figure is accurate to is the start of The Caretaker, isn't it?
Start of The Caretaker, where he's just wearing the shirt, but the coat. So. But I don't know if it's the case they've undone the cardigan on purpose, but it's because it's hidden behind the coat.
But you can't see it.
But that's
interesting.
Where this mess comes from.
And so in stuff like, I mean, we're getting a bit ahead, I suppose. We'll cover the other costumes in other videos and things. But so things like that final scene of Mummy while he's on the beach, is that not the same costume, or is that a different one?
It's a minorly different one.
Wow,
so they did something very weird. So technically, this is the Series 9 coat, just because it's a bit nicer cut.
Right.
The Series 8 coat's a bit worse. So actually, technically, a small little detail for you all viewers, this is the Class coat. So in Class, if you notice, the middle button on the Series 9 coat switches back to the black, but it's red for Series 9. But
the more you know.
I use it for Series 8 because it's a better cut coat, and anyone who knows the coats will know the history of the lining of the Capaldi coats. So there's a line in Magician's Apprentice. No, it's Witch's Familiar. It's when he gets the sonic shades out, where he says, "Oh, I'm over screwdrivers. They spoil the lining of your jacket.
Yes.
These days I'm all about wearable technology."
Yes.
So he sort of goes back. But it's a reference to these falling to bits, because the lining, I believe, was a tie lining. It was that thin, and it was like a tablecloth, and it just shredded.
Yikes.
So that's the only reason I've never done this costume fully accurate, specifically with the coat, is I've just gone, I don't want that.
And so in Flatline as well, is that slightly different?
Yeah, because he wears a waistcoat instead of the
cardigan. Oh, okay, yeah, I see. So the cardigan only appears in those first two episodes.
Yeah, because they do it away and switch it with a waistcoat that's made. So there's two versions of the Series 8 coat, which many people don't know about. So the first batch, I believe, is a lighter blue, and it becomes a more inky, so the fabric sort of changed, it went on.
Right,
and the waistcoat sometimes looks dark. So you know how in some episodes the waistcoat he wears, that's like this material, this sort of wool, it's darker in contrast to the coat, but sometimes it matches it perfectly.
So, for instance, then if
in Flatline, it's a perfect matching
by that point,
suit.
okay.
But when you get to the end of the series,
the
finale with Michelle Gomez, he's wearing, I think, the first coat.
Oh, the first one, is it?
The earlier coat with the later waistcoat. But other than that, do you want to do the breakdown on it?
Let's do a breakdown of it. Yeah, this costume. So it only appeared actually in this form for just a couple of episodes. Yeah,
not very long.
Not very long at all. So where shall we begin?
And the coat specifically, obviously, as previously mentioned, this is the Abbey Shot officially licensed replica.
Yeah.
One day I might upgrade to a camel hair for Series 9, but I'm never going to upgrade the Series 8 coat, just because getting a coat version made of this accurately would actually be getting a worse quality coat than I'm currently wearing, in my opinion, because it have lining that disintegrates.
Yeah.
Moving on to the cardigan, this is a John Smedley Calvindesh. I believe it's pronounced, it has there's a name for it. This was released in 2014, and there's two variants of this cardigan, and people get confused sometimes. So there's the big button version of this cardigan, which this is, and it has a non-roll cuff. It just has a traditional cardigan cuff.
See, okay.
But it's a later version of this cardigan where, you know how some of them have roll cuffs? Cardigans, like they have a longer,
so it's a long,
and then it rolls back, and then it has smaller buttons on
it.
But this is the accurate one.
So that's how he always wore it then. So with also we'll get onto the shirt and the cufflink in a minute, but that was then, and the cardigan kind of stops before that point. Okay, interesting. Yeah.
And then basically the cardigan, it sometimes changes. So on the particular example, and Richard will show a photo of it, probably in some form right
maybe
now,
if you're lucky.
If you're lucky. As you can see, the bottom button is undone on the cardigan. He just wears it like that. But sometimes there's actually a scene in Into the Dalek when he's inside the Dalek, that bottom button is done up. And here's an even weirder fact about the cardigan. When he has the coat open like this, the cardigan is fully done up. But in order to get the silhouette to look right, so as you can see when he buttons the coat up, just with the very classic 12th Doctor sort of thing.
Absolutely.
In order to get a cleaner silhouette, because you can see the top cardigan button just there, he actually undoes it. And you can see this in Into the Dalek when he's walking about.
So you can see the
shirt.
Okay.
More. But it's just minute details like that are really bizarre. But it's just odd.
And, isn't it? Yeah.
I believe the cardigan originally retailed for £150, but I got it for a tenner.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Crikey.
Yeah.
I mean, I do like that idea of the cardigan. I think it's a shame it didn't ever come back.
It's a bit school boy though. You get what I mean?
I guess so. And it's a bit kind of old manish maybe. But I sort of like that vibe. And it sort of harks back to things like Ian Chesterton, the classic series or whatever. I mean, he was a school teacher, so it is that kind of school type of feel, isn't it? But I think to kind of swap that out for the waistcoat so soon was a little bit of a shame, because it's kind of, I mean, this whole outline and that image that we were talking about as well,
so
the reveal, it's so distinctive, and that is what you think of, certainly when you think of the early 12th Doctor.
It was on all the marketing as well, like literally
everything,
the books, the posters, like
it's that thing we always have where there's one photo that's licensed for use,
and then it gets reused on the calendars. Yeah.
Oh gosh, yeah, literally.
And then moving on to the shirt.
Yeah.
I think it's mentioned actually in that press release, or at least the interview with Capaldi that was on the YouTube, like the Doctor Who extra, and they did a short snippet with him. The shirt was actually custom made for Capaldi, I think. And it was requested from a company called Bud Shirt Makers. This is the Bud. these are ridiculous prices. I only ever bought one because it's one of the items, it's a bit like his Holes jumper that I'm really keen to get one day.
Yeah.
He wears it through all 3 series, so I thought, if I get it and get it accurate, it's like,
okay.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because the shirt's one of the pieces that actually stays consistent.
So I'm guessing, in the finales of series 9 and 10, is that, or in other episodes as well? Or?
So when he wears the burgundy velvet coat,
so that stays constant all
and
the way
then later
through.
on, when he has the undone cuffs, that is the same shirt. It's just heavily distressed.
Right, yeah.
Because they brought the
and that's
linen.
in the series 10
Yeah, they
finale,
brought the linen look in.
Wow, okay.
But the shirt is one of the only remaining consistencies of the look. Mine is a little bit inaccurate, but the only reason... So Capaldi's was originally a tailored fit. Mm-hmm. I personally had mine made to a slim fit because I didn't want it making like a bag. But you can still get these from Bud Shirt Makers. They do run a little high. Last time I checked when I ordered mine, it was on their made-to-measure section. It was £345 for the shirt, which was a little bit killer, but it is what it is. But specifically, the main details on it, you want to select the Doctor Who cuff on the drop-down menu, because they're a little bit elongated compared to a typical French cuff. They're a little bit longer.
So that's an option on the website, is it?
It just says Doctor Who cuff. It just says Doctor Who.
Yeah,
and then the collar says Doctor Who as well. And it's on the made-to-measure, and it's Soyella cotton. And
interesting.
It's weird, and it just goes together like that.
So, because, like with a white shirt, I suppose people wouldn't necessarily think there's anything particularly special about that, but what is it that makes it? I mean, obviously the collar is very kind of pointed, isn't it? And
it's the reason they did a pointed collar. It was because Capaldi's such a big fan of Bowie,
right? Okay.
So, and it was very sort of influenced from that style.
Interesting.
But also, it's because they didn't want any faff, no frills, as you say, no bow ties.
Yeah, I was going to say that it fits that so well, doesn't it?
And sometimes
more severe look.
When you have a top collar done up with a short, a top button with a collar done up and it has a short collar, it looks a bit stubby. So I wonder if they just thought, if he's going to look so severe by having his top button done up.
Right, to kind of make sure it kind of disappears behind the coat and stuff. Yeah. I see. Yeah, okay.
But that's part of the reason of having that. And then moving on to the cufflinks, this is an item I don't actually have. These are just my very groovy Time Vortex cufflinks.
Yeah.
They were custom made, those, and they were made for my uncle. They weren't for me, but they do look like Time Vortex, don't they? Weirdly.
They fit
but
perfectly.
He actually wears a pair of pointed cufflinks. Now, if you want to go for the cheap alternative, Magnoli do a fine replica of them, and you can order them in silver. They're like these little pointed cufflinks. But the actual accurate ones, I believe, are from Brooklyn Goldsmith Designs. And they're based in Cardiff, and they were the jewellers, and they do them accurately. Last time I heard someone, when they got a quote, this was about 2 years ago, I still need to order them myself. It's just one of these things you never get round to. I think they were £200, so I believe they are still available. So if you drop them an email, or even I think they have an Instagram, drop them a message on Instagram, you might be able to get them from them still.
Sure.
Because obviously they're bespoke.
Yeah.
And then, obviously, moving on to the trousers, these are the wrong ones that I'm currently wearing, but Richard will have the correct ones in some photos now.
Yeah, what is it about them that's so unique, this particular pair?
They were by Paul Smith, and basically they're just a navy pair of trousers, but they had turn-ups on the bottom. And also they had, usually when you have pleats in a trouser, they sort of go and are folded towards the pocket.
Right, okay.
These Paul Smith trousers, weirdly, the pleats, which is a bit atypical for a trouser, the pleats were folded in towards the crotch. So they were like the reverse way. Does that make sense?
I think so, yeah.
So like the pleat was like folded over this way as opposed to this way. It's a really minute detail.
So the pockets are basically, sort of the opposite.
Well, there's like a pleat that runs down your trouser that gives you like a press seam.
Okay.
On fronts, it's on really formal trousers, but
I sort of get it. Yeah. Whatever.
But it's like it's a really minor detail, and that's something stupid. But they're at home currently, hung up in the cupboard. Yeah. And then, sort of final thing that we also, well, it isn't the final thing, so I've forgotten another thing, which is actually in my pocket right now. This unfortunately doesn't fit my finger. The ring. So
what's the story behind this? Okay,
the ring. I'm unsure if it's the same jewellers as the cufflinks or it's someone else who made the ring.
Right.
But this is the Magnoli Clovis replica. Now, this obviously has adjusting bands for different finger sizes.
Yes.
But originally, one of these rings is Capaldi's wedding ring, and I think it's the thinner one because it's. Can you see? there's like one that's thicker band and then thinner.
Right.
I think the thinner band would be his wedding ring, and then the thicker one would slip over the wedding ring. So it's in like 2 halves originally, but this is all one ring as opposed to that. So that's all one ring. Unfortunately,
okay, yeah, I knew there was something like that. So he had his original ring, and then the other bits had the jewel or whatever stuck on top,
and
then it would kind of slide. Oh, okay.
So you can see in some episodes when the ring slips. Obviously, you can't do it with this one because this is a replica by Magnolia.
Because it kind of split into whatever. Right?
Yeah. But unfortunately, one thing with this replica.
Yikes.
So,
yeah, I see.
But it doesn't fit my finger, so it might fit yours probably better.
Okay, yeah.
but you know, it's just it's one of those things.
Yeah.
Someone's going to be like, it's just dropped a Magnolia Clover's ring. But that, although it's a very cheap replica of it. But it's just a nice thing to have. I only wear it for cosplay photos.
Sure.
But anyway, moving on to the final thing.
Yeah.
The shoes, not Doc Martens, like what the press.
That's what they always said.
The original press release. They are. They are a pair of Logs.
Yeah.
They are a pair of Logs.
Okay.
Basically, these were bought from a shop in Camden, supposedly by Peter himself. I don't know if this is true, though. I suspect the costume designer probably went into the store. Allegedly, Peter bought a pair and the costume designer went in. But these were also available from Logue at the time, so I'm unsure what the story is. All I know, though, is that the particular store that still sells these, I don't know what sizes they actually have in stock at the time of speaking, because it's always a bit in and out.
Of course.
Is the British Boot Company in Camden. They sell these, and I think they're a really nice set of boots. Obviously, they have a oil-resistant sole, an acid-resistant, so that's like for when they were shooting in the big, for Into the Dalek, when they were shooting in the factories.
Yeah, and funky locations and things,
So they have a really resistant sole.
Very nice.
But weirdly, they switched these out later on for the Doc Martens.
So in Series 8 or?
At 9.
Actually, okay, so in Series 8 it's those all the way through. Series 9 and then...
But rather strangely...
Switch them up.
So in Under the Lake he wears a completely different pair of boots, but that's because they're all, quote-unquote, a water boot. But it's because of all the water filming. Because they didn't want to wreck these. But then they found another Doc Marten at the same time that's like a Brogue Doc Marten, and it nearly looks identical to this, like it's a knockoff, almost. But it's strange. I suspect it's probably because those boots range from around the £300 mark nowadays. They used to be around £285 when I got my first ever pair, because I have 2. But I wonder if because they were so expensive, they switched to a £120 pair of Docs, potentially just to make...
Under the Lake was the first story filmed, wasn't it, for Series 9? So I guess maybe if they'd decided to change it for that, maybe they just thought, going forward, we'll...
Change them
anyway, yeah.
But they were they were also a different sub boot, which is like got a flat sole. It's all confusing. And those boots are only used for 2 episodes.
Yeah.
But
wow, I've never have known that. It's so
niche.
Yeah, so niche, yeah.
Wait, is he up there? So yeah, because he's wearing the John Smedley hoodie. So basically, he wears little Brogue boots there. So what character options actually got wrong on that figure is, even though they didn't do the Magician's Apprentice one for ages, they actually got this figure wrong as a result. So
they used the Magician's Apprentice boots on... Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, on the... Okay.
Because that's what these are based off. These are based off the Logs. People say they're actually based off the Docs. They aren't, and the reason you can tell is the Logs Logs are a little bit longer than the Docs.
And so are these accurate to anything, or are they just kind of...
They're based off the Logs.
They're based off those, okay.
Yeah, because you can tell by the lacing.
Yeah.
But what they did is they tried to change these boots to be based off the Doc Martens.
Yeah.
Because these are like his clown shoes almost on this figure. But really niche detail. Can you see that the lacing on the figure goes over the top like the Logue on both of them?
Yes,
So even though they tried to replicate the Afflecks, they actually have a typical cross cap,
My goodness.
You know when you have a moment...
Unbelievable, yeah.
When you realise you're a nerd.
I mean, these are the tangents that our viewers come for, they come here for, absolutely. But I've never have known that.
Never known that. So he's technically inaccurate to later on. But
wow, interesting.
Now that I've got this figure, because we didn't really get any Series 10 figures, did we? No,
there was nothing.
We didn't get one.
Sculpts that were kind of based on Series 10.
No,
they just reused these.
So as it transforms, also another reason I got this. What do you think about the look as it went on? Personally,
okay. I mean, I guess going through these videos and the later parts, we'll get into this in more detail, won't we? But I suppose, on the whole, I don't mind the later looks. I've kind of grown to appreciate these when I switched in hoodies and stuff. I mean, there are some, and I think you'll agree with me on this, that particular variant in the pilot springs to mind. It looks ridiculous. They've literally thrown the kitchen sink at it and had every single possible thing, like hoodie, waistcoat, whatever. Undershirt, shirt, t-shirt. There are some where it goes a bit crazy, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ignorant old me, like back, when Series 10 was on or whatever, the finale, I kind of thought, oh yeah, they've gone back to the original costume, but obviously, shirt aside, there are kind of differences, aren't there? It's the same silhouettes. I liked that they kind of went back to that and came full circle, roughly speaking, in the end, and with the velvet.
That navy velvet one, in particular.
The navy velvet, yeah.
That should have been, I think... because I hate this coat with a passion.
Oh, really? Okay.
I really don't like it. The Series 8 particularly. I don't even really like it as Series 9. I think that navy velvet coat is like his full circle ensemble. He's eventually got his waistcoat, after replacing the cardigan. He's still got his shirt. He's still got a similar trouser. He's got a similar enough boot. Yeah. The coat's now being converted into velvet, and it just gives him a really nice silhouette that's like a full look before he dies. And there is a bit of a complaint about it. The amount of coats, as you'll see in future videos, the amount of coats he ended up having was insane. So Series 8, they just kept it. Okay. Well, it's technically supposed to be 1, but it's 2 because of the the mismatching fabrics I told you. Yeah. But Series 9, they obviously kept it to 2. And the burgundy velvet's a really nice one-off. Obviously, the hell-bent look is supposed to be completely different, but that's supposed to be because it's like his Hartnell Gallifreyan dress, you know what I mean? So it's supposed to be more classic Doctor, that. But as Series 10, it just goes bonkers. As of Return of Doctor Mysterio, which I don't know if you'd count that Series 10, but I do.
Yeah.
That onwards, he gets a new coat straight away.
There's a weird variant in that one. Is it the scene where they go back in time to when Grant is at school and he's like floating up? And there's a weird variant there. It's like the burgundy coat and hoodies and t-shirts and loads of stuff.
He has a blue t-shirt and then he has an unidentified, but it isn't really unidentified. Yeah. It's a burgundy jumper with holes in, and everyone really wants it because it matches the burgundy coat, but it was actually custom made, I believe. People think it's insane that Shooty had currently, during filming, even with the new series they're on season 2 about midway through now, they think it's insane he's got so many looks. But to be fair, Capaldi, the amount of stuff he had. But the daft thing is, and I don't know if I'm making up this quote, is I'm convinced they said they wanted the 12th Doctor's look to be easy to replicate. I don't know where I've heard that.
See, I've heard that as well, I think.
And it was a bit like where they introduced the Sonic shades, but they're Ray-Bans.
Yeah, it's like the principle is, okay, you can have like your white shirt, your navy trousers, whatever, your navy jacket. But actually, when you look at the items that were chosen, it's like really high-end, custom-made, tailored
and
bits and pieces.
I guess the idea is, you're not meant to get a weirdo like me in this world who cares too much and is like, I'm fascinated by this. Yeah. It's maybe just, that's your silhouette, you copy it roughly, and it doesn't need to be exactly the same.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But also, you've just got to accept you can have diehard fans, you know what I mean, that are going to analyse this, and maybe be a little bit overcritical.
Yeah.
And my one message is, he probably ain't watching. Al, can you just fix this?
Yeah.
It's one shirt mould. Personally, I think you'd be better off doing a waistcoat version as opposed to the cardigan, because Al, you could release this guy with a waistcoat instead of the shirt, just a simple remold. You can have him like this.
And you can have the red velvet.
You can have the red velvet. You can have the black velvet Crombie. You could even possibly get away with doing the linen on that coat. It might not look great.
Yeah.
But you might be able to get away with painting it in the linen colours, and I think people would buy it.
Oh, yeah.
And also, you could have the navy velvet if you just do it in a different tone of blue. And some idiot would buy that. like you could have 5 variants out of it, and it's one thing.
It's such a shame that that it was like that in the first place, and that they've not since gone back to it. Like, surely for B&M or something, that would be an easy one variant to do.
Well, it's like it really annoyed me, their opportunity to do it. They did the Talons of Weng Chiang, Tom Baker, and then they released this guy in the red velvet jacket, and it's based off the end of Hellbent, where he catches the Sonic, isn't it? When it launches out the TARDIS and he walks in.
Oh, is it actually screen accurate to that scene?
Ish. Because this is based off, and I can tell you which shirt that's based off due to the collar. Basically, the way the collar is constructed is, I think it's technically based off the Paul Smith Bayard shirt, which is the purple and navy one he wears in Robots of Sherwood when you went to the filming.
Yes.
And also Time Heist when he wears the navy one. But the weirdest thing about this figure is they've released the purple one, so they've released an accurate version of that with the way the collar's cut. But the most strange thing to me is they've released a black shirt variant, which he never wore. He never wears a black shirt with the look.
Isn't it meant to be Time Heist, that?
Yeah, but it's navy.
Okay, so they got the colour.
So I don't know how they messed it up, and it really...
Right.
It's one of these things that irks me. Because this collar is technically actually wrong to this shirt, and it's also wrong to the polka dot shirt.
So the collar on this is not as pointy. Is that the idea?
It should be pointier.
Yeah, and that's more accurate. So the other shirts aren't as pointy.
Because it was based off the look without the waistcoats, if you get me.
I see.
And then they released the polka dot one, which, Al, if you're watching, is this shirt. But tailored in a different fabric, obviously. But
wow. Yeah.
It's details like this that drive me mental.
I want to say as well, before we bring this to a close, obviously we did that video about the 14th Doctor look beforehand. We were right about the sock and trouser thing, weren't we?
In the end, yes.
Yes.
So I think on the dummy at the con, they'd mixed the socks up, but if you actually watch the episode, when you see Shooty, he has the sock on the right foot and the left, and then there's also the BBC behind the scenes thing with, when he shot the story time with the CB.
Oh, that bedtime story.
Yeah, and he's actually got it on the right, so we were sort of right about that.
Although that was shot later on, wasn't it? So it's possible. Well, I don't know.
So but these things you get errors on them all the time.
And then, so have you or anybody identified the 14th Doctor's undershirt?
So
I'm half joking when I say this, half not.
People think it's a Henley.
Okay.
I don't think it's a Henley. My theory would be because it's tucked in.
Yeah.
You know those white like pyjama suits?
Yes, that's kind of what it reminds me of, like a kind of thermal sort of
pyjama
thing. Yeah.
I don't know what the official name for it is though. Like,
no, I think it's kind of like
they have like a stretch cuff on the bottom of the trousers. You get what I mean? It's all like
I'm sure I used to have some pyjamas. Like they are kind of like to keep you warm or to wear.
But it looks more like a thermal thing as opposed to because it's not thick enough, and also when you see it. It's not something I'm particularly interested in, though, because he doesn't wear it in any of the other episodes. He just wears it for that by regeneration.
And presumably the same applies to the 15th Doctor's underwear as well.
Someone actually, I was like, I'm not doing that. Like, full stop, no. I was like...
Yeah, maybe not.
We are not. We're not going
there.
No, I'm not doing that.
So on that note, let's go back to Peter Capaldi, the more civilised costume. Yeah. I mean, let us know all of your thoughts on this first version of this costume in the comments below, and if you're old enough, because it was 10 years ago now, but
we're old
enough to have remembered, when it was revealed.
We're soon becoming the old guard, you know.
I know. It's sad, isn't it? Anyway. Let us know all your thoughts. Either if you were there at the time, or if you've discovered the 12th Doctor more recently. Your thoughts on this costume and how it's aged, and how it compares to the other variants. We will be back at some point to cover the other Series 8 costumes, the Series 9 costumes, and the Series 10 costumes. It'll be a big series to undertake.
Be a long one. But we just need. I feel like we need just a day to do that. Like it's just good. Because the amount of information, I was putting the PowerPoint together, so this is your little teaser. Yeah. I've got to Series 9, and I'm already like, oh no. But because I went through Series 8, because these looks are actually repeated in some episodes. So, is it the caretaker? Danny approaches Clara for a run, knocks on a flat door, but she has a flashback to running down the Doctor Who experience with
the corridor.
Yeah. And I think he's wearing the purple shirt there. And I was doing all these tidbits of information, breaking down all these 30-second scenes, and I wanted it to be the most distinctive series. And I got to Series 9, and I was like, oh gosh, because there's costume variants that are exclusive to the promo pictures. So the really famous promo picture of him sat on it's like a set of recording equipment cases. Yes, and he's playing the guitar.
The guitar, yeah.
He wears the Doc Martin Afflecks because it's a later photo.
To what was on screen,
and it's not the Logs. But the reason he wears them is because the promo... Have you got the Series 9 Part 1 and 2 slipcases still?
Sadly not anymore.
Because they were shot in the same day as, the red velvet and the Face to Raven look.
Yes.
He wears the Afflecks with the Magician's Apprentice look when he should be wearing the Logs. I just got to this point where I was like, Do we just do it episodic, or do we do everything?
Maybe. Yeah, it's going to be a massive job, but yeah, looking forward to bringing that to the channel at some point in the future. It's going to be great. The sort of definitive guide, or as close as we can.
Close as we can.
Close as we can get it. Anyway, yeah, leave your thoughts in the comments. I hope you've enjoyed. I will leave links to anything in the description. Joe's Instagram and any of these items that you can still buy.
Hopefully.
If you can still buy them.
If I can find the links.
If there are links, yeah.
We will apologise. When we did the last video, it's mainly just because of laziness on my part.
Sure.
We shot the video, we weren't expecting anything of it, and then everyone was asking for links. And I was like, oh, this stuff doesn't exist anymore.
Anyway, there we go. So thank you so much for watching, and without further ado then, until the next one, stay tuned, until the next one.
Bye for now.
Goodbye.